Nobody ever explains the warning labels properly. They give you pamphlets when you first sign onto a mixed-species crew. They give you briefings and cultural sensitivity modules and a mandatory 3-hour seminar titled Humans, Expectations and Risk Mitigation. They tell you that humans are unpredictable, that they are emotionally driven, that they pack bond excessively and engage in reckless self-sacrifice. They show you statistics about injury rates, insubordination reports, and heroic fatalities, which is a phrase that still makes my thorax itch when I think about it. What they do not tell you, what they never tell you, is that humans are not dangerous because they lose control. They are dangerous because they don't. My name is Voran Threx. I am a Kesh navigator, third-generation Void certified, specialization in long-range commercial routing through unstable sectors. I was trained to anticipate chaos, to calculate probabilities, to avoid risk rather than confront it. My species survives by not being noticed. We curve around danger. We do not challenge it. We certainly do not antagonize it and then smile. This is why, in retrospect, it should have terrified me that Marcus Hale smiled as much as he did. Marcus was our engineer, human, male, mid-30s by Earth reckoning. Brown hair kept short for utility rather than aesthetics, perpetually tired eyes, hands always marked with small burns or cuts from whatever he had been repairing that cycle. He was unremarkable in every way that mattered to the wider galaxy. No military background, no enhanced physiology, no political importance. And yet, he was the axis around which our crew quietly rotated. It started with small things. Humans always start with small things. He learned our names faster than protocol required. He adjusted environmental controls in shared spaces so each species' comfort thresholds overlapped as much as possible. He brewed beverages that were technically poisonous to him because the rest of us preferred them. He listened. Gods, he listened. Humans listen in a way that makes you forget they are cataloging everything you say. When I caught a navigational fever on our third run together and collapsed in my quarters, Marcus rerouted power manually to compensate for a failing medbay generator so the autodock could finish its cycle. 12 hours of work. No report filed. No request for compensation. "You needed it," he said when I tried to thank him. "That's what crew's for." Crew. That word should have warned me. Our vessel, the Drifting Ledger, was a mid-capacity freight hauler operating the outer trade lanes. Nothing glamorous. Bulk cargo, agricultural processors, industrial enzymes. We docked where others didn't bother, which meant we crossed paths with species who still believed strength equaled entitlement. That was how we ended up at Kepri Station. Kepri was officially neutral, which meant it was only violent in ways that didn't disrupt commerce. It sat at the intersection of 3 minor trade routes, administered by a rotating council more concerned with tariffs than justice. Everyone knew the rules. No overt weapons, no open conflict, no incidents that would require paperwork reaching the core worlds. The rules worked because most species feared consequences. The Ralvec Dominion did not. The Ralvec are large, bipedal arthropods encased in layered crimson armor, each plate grown rather than forged. Their culture is hierarchical to the point of obsession. Strength is authority. Authority is virtue. Everything else is tolerated only when useful. Their delegation arrived 2 cycles after we docked. 5 armored escorts. 1 commander. Weapons technically ceremonial, meaning they could still disintegrate a person at close range but had decorative filigree along the barrels. The commander's name was Krathen Val, though he insisted on being addressed by his full title, which translated roughly to Breaker of Chains, Subjugator of the Fifth Swarm, Instrument of Dominion. Humans would have made a joke about it. Marcus didn't. He just avoided him. That avoidance lasted exactly one rotation. I wasn't present when it happened. That fact will haunt me longer than the screams. It occurred in the lower concourse near the auxiliary cargo lifts, a narrow corridor where traffic bottlenecked during shift changes. Marcus was carrying a replacement coupling, 30 kilograms of alloy balanced awkwardly against his shoulder, when someone shoved from behind. He stumbled. He collided with Crathen Vol. The coupling struck the Ralvec commander's chest plate with a dull clang. No damage, barely a scuff. Marcus immediately stepped back. "Sorry," he said. Translator Chip rendering the word soft, sincere. "Didn't see you there." The silence that followed was absolute. Ralvec culture does not recognize accidents. There is only dominance or weakness. Crathen Vol's antennae flared. His mandibles flexed. Witnesses later told me Marcus didn't move, didn't flinch. He stood there, shoulders relaxed, hands open, posture non-threatening. That was mistake number 2. Mistake number 3 was assuming neutrality applied to him. Crathen Vol struck Marcus with the back of his primary limb. The blow shattered the coupling and sent Marcus into the bulkhead hard enough to crack the paneling. The commander followed through with a second strike, crushing Marcus's left arm against the wall. Humans scream when surprised. Marcus didn't scream. He made a sound, short, involuntary, and slid to the floor, cradling his arm as blood ran down his sleeve. Witnesses said his face went pale, eyes unfocused, but he stayed conscious. Security arrived 4 minutes later. 4 minutes is a very long time when bones are exposed. By the time I reached the concourse, Marcus was already being loaded onto a med-sled. His arm bent in a way that arms should not. His blood smelled sharp and metallic, triggering every danger response my species has. Crathen Vol stood nearby, unrestrained, speaking calmly with a station official who nodded and apologized repeatedly. "It was a matter of respect," the official said to the gathered crowd. "An unfortunate misunderstanding." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say something intelligent and forceful about neutrality, about proportional response, about the fact that Marcus had apologized. Instead, I froze. Because Marcus looked at me then. Even through pain, even through shock, he found me in the crowd. He lifted his uninjured hand slightly, palm down. It was a human gesture. Later, I would learn it meant it's fine, don't interfere. At the time, I just stood there and let them take him away. The med bay repaired what it could. Humans are resilient, but there are limits. Compound fracture, nerve damage. Weeks of regeneration, months of reduced mobility. The attending physician asked if Marcus wished to file a formal grievance. He declined. "Wasn't worth the trouble," he said. I sat beside his bed while the regen cast formed around his arm, luminous and humming softly. I told him the commander would face no consequences. I told him the council wouldn't risk trade sanctions. I told him this was how things worked. He listened. Then he nodded. "Yeah," he said, "that tracks. No anger, no bitterness, just acceptance." That should have frightened me more than rage. For 3 cycles, Marcus rested. I brought him food. He asked about navigation routes, about my calculations, about whether I'd finally adjusted the drift compensation algorithm he'd suggested months earlier. Normal conversation. But there was something else now. A stillness. Humans think fast, that is known. What is less known is that when they slow down, it means they are arranging pieces. On the 4th cycle, Marcus asked me a question. "Hey, Vorin," he said casually. "The Ralvec delegation still docked?" "Yes," I answered, because lying did not occur to me quickly enough. "They're scheduled to depart next rotation. Where are they quartered?" I hesitated. My translator stuttered for a fraction of a second. "Diplomatic tier," I said. "Upper ring." "Got it," Marcus said. He smiled, not wide. Not happy, just enough to show acknowledgement. "Thanks." That night I dreamed of red armor drifting through vacuum, severed cleanly, tumbling end over end. I woke with my secondary heart racing. I should have reported him. I should have warned someone. Instead, I told myself humans needed time to process trauma. I told myself he was harmless. I told myself a man with one broken arm couldn't possibly challenge a Dominion commander. I was wrong on every count. And that was only the beginning. I realized Marcus was gone when the ship's internal sensors flagged an unauthorized movement in the maintenance corridors. That alone wouldn't have been unusual. Humans wander. They pace. They ignore posted restrictions with a confidence that borders on delusion. But Marcus was supposed to be confined to quarters, medical orders. Logged and acknowledged. His room was empty. The region cast lay open on the desk, peeled away prematurely. That alone told me more than any alarm ever could. Humans will tolerate pain. They will not tolerate waiting when they believe something must be done. I felt a cold, sinking pressure in my thorax that had nothing to do with gravity. I left the ship. Kepri Station's upper ring was designed to impress. Polished alloy floors, indirect lighting tuned to reduce aggression responses, private security that looked formidable but existed primarily to discourage poor species from wandering where they didn't belong. The diplomatic tier was quiet in the way only dangerous places are. No ambient noise, no crowds, no witnesses. I moved faster than protocol allowed. I heard Marcus before I saw him, not shouting, never shouting. His voice carried through the partially open door of the Ralvec suite, calm and conversational like he was discussing a faulty capacitor or a misaligned conduit. "You broke my arm," Marcus was saying. That wasn't a misunderstanding, that was a choice. I froze at the threshold. Inside, the suite was in ruins, furniture overturned, decorative lighting shattered. Two Ralvec guards lay unconscious near the entrance, their armor scorched and fused at the joints. Another was slumped against the far wall, breathing shallowly, his weapon dismantled into neat components on the floor beside him. Marcus stood in the center of the room. He wore civilian clothes. No armor, no weapons I recognized. His left arm hung uselessly at his side, swollen and discolored where the cast had been removed too early. In his right hand, he held a portable industrial cutter, one of ours, stolen from the ship's engineering bay. Crathen Val was on the floor. The Ralvec commander's massive frame was pinned by a web of magnetic clamps, jury-rigged with frightening efficiency. His mandibles flexed rapidly, antennae flattened tight against his skull plates. His escorts were down. He was alone. "This is a violation of," Crathen Val began. "No," Marcus interrupted gently. "That's a script you use when there's an audience, it's just us now." Crathen Val's compound eyes tracked Marcus's injured arm. "You are weak," the commander said. "You should have accepted your place." Marcus tilted his head slightly, considering. "That's the thing," he replied. "Humans don't really have a good relationship with that concept." I stepped into the doorway. "Marcus," I said, my voice cracked despite myself, "please." He glanced at me. The calm didn't leave his eyes. "Hey, Vorin," he said, "you might want to step back." "Don't do this," I said. "They'll kill you, they'll kill all of us." Marcus looked back at Crathen Val. "See," he said conversationally, "this is what I mean. You rely on fear, it works great until it doesn't." Crathen Val struggled against the clamps they held. "You cannot escape consequence," the commander hissed. "The Dominion will," Marcus activated the cutter. The sound was sharp and final, not loud, efficient. I turned away too late to spare myself the smell. Ralvec armor is grown, layered over living tissue. The cutter passed through it with clinical precision, cauterizing as it went. Crathen Val's roar filled the suite, raw and animal, stripped of authority and ceremony. When it was over, Marcus deactivated the tool and stepped back. Val lay screaming, clutching the stump where his primary limb had been. Blood dark viscous pooled across the floor, already smoking where it touched the heated metal. Marcus exhaled slowly. "Now," he said, "we're even." I don't remember moving, but suddenly I was beside him, pulling at his good arm. "Security," I whispered urgently. "They're coming." "Yeah," Marcus said. "I figured." He set the cutter down carefully. Not dropped. Set. We left. No alarms sounded until we were 3 corridors away. By the time station security sealed the diplomatic tier, Marcus was already back aboard the drifting ledger, seated on his bunk, reapplying the broken cast with shaking hands. Captain Earl was pounding on my quarters door less than an hour later. Her carapace flared in a display of barely contained panic. "What did your human do?" she demanded. "And why is the Ralvec delegation issuing blood oaths on an open channel?" I lied. I lied badly. Marcus didn't. He emerged from behind me, pale, sweating, his arm clearly shattered beyond what the cast could hide. "I slipped," he said mildly. "Pain meds. You know how it is." The message from Station Command arrived before anyone could argue further. Incident classified, diplomatic immunity invoked. Ralvec delegation departing immediately for emergency medical transit. No charges filed. Captain Earl stared at the display for a long time. Then she looked at Marcus, then at me. "We are leaving," she said. "Now." The drifting ledger undocked within the hour. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong, because humans do not escalate emotionally. They escalate structurally. 3 rotations later, deep in the outer lanes, our long-range sensors picked up a mass shadow dropping out of slipspace behind us. It was Ralvec, a Dominion pursuit cruiser. Military grade, heavily armed, its transmission cut through our comms array without effort. "Cargo vessel drifting ledger, power down your engines. Surrender the human Marcus Hale for transport and judgment." Captain Earl's voice went thin. "We can't outrun them." Marcus was already on the bridge. "They want me alive," he said, "otherwise we'd be debris." "That's not comforting," I said. He smiled. "Plot a jump," he told me, "into the Acheron drift." My blood ran cold. The Acheron drift was a dead zone. Electromagnetic storms, gravity shear, sensor blindness. Ships avoided it because navigation there was guesswork at best and suicide at worst. "They'll follow," I said. "Probably," Marcus agreed. "But they're big." I stared at him, "And we're not." I understood. I plotted the jump. The universe folded. When we emerged inside the drift, chaos greeted us. Static flooded the consoles. Gravity twisted. The hull screamed as unseen forces scraped along it. The Ralvec cruiser followed. Too large, too slow, fighters launched. Marcus didn't hesitate. He vented cargo, industrial coolant canisters, volatile in the drift's radiation. The explosions tore the fighters apart in cascading bursts of white-blue fire. One remained. It fired. Shields failed. Marcus sealed himself into an EVA suit. "Marcus," I said. "No." He placed a hand on my shoulder. "Crew," he said. Then he went out the airlock. I watched on external cams as he crawled along the hull, one arm useless, radiation boiling around him, until he reached the forward turret, the one we'd never fixed. He fixed it. Then he fired. The last fighter vanished into the storm. Marcus came back inside, collapsed against the bulkhead, and laughed weakly. The Ralvec cruiser did not follow us further. We limped out of the drift hours later, systems fried but intact. A message arrived 2 days after, from Val, or what remained of him. His image flickered on screen, diminished, missing limbs stark against his armored form. "You taught us," he said stiffly, "that humans do not accept hierarchy imposed by force. The Dominion withdraws its claim." The message ended. Marcus deleted it and went back to work. Weeks passed. His arm healed, mostly. The galaxy adjusted. Stories spread. Some called him a monster, some called him a hero. I call him my friend. And now you understand the warning labels. Humans are not dangerous because they are violent. They are dangerous because once you cross a line, they decide where the new one goes, and they enforce it absolutely.